Today I want to go over writing an expert advisor for a simple Bollinger Band strategy. I do have a simple strategy here which you may want to modify. You should be able to do that with the tools available. This is a simple re-entry strategy where when the price moves back inside the Bollinger Band, then we will execute trades. So firstly I'll be explaining how the strategy works, the take profit and stop loss, and then we will write the code for this as an EA from beginning to end. I'll start with a quick explanation of the Bollinger Band. A Bollinger Band has a central line, you can see here, that is a simple moving average. And then it draws an upper and lower channel line, which are a number of deviations away from that simple moving average. Bring up the settings for Bollinger Band. The default is 20 periods, which sets the moving average, and the default deviations are 2. So the upper and lower lines are each 2 deviations away from that central line. And there's an apply to price to determine the moving average. For the strategy that I'm going to write today, I'm going to look for re-entries into the Bollinger Band. So I've highlighted an example here. One candle has closed below the lower Bollinger line, and the next candle has closed above that same line. So that's a re-entry that I'm looking for. And when that happens, at the beginning of the following bar here, I will set a buy stop just above the top of the candle that closed inside the Bollinger Band. And in this case, I would have executed that buy and carried on. Here's a further example. If the candle closes above the top Bollinger Band, and then the next candle closes below that upper Bollinger line, then I will place a sell stop below that line. And in this case, the following candle didn't reach that sell stop, and I'm going to set expiry on these sell stops and buy stops. So this would not have traded, and that sell stop would have expired at the end of this next candle. To keep it simple, I'm also going to set the exits as based on take profit and stop loss. So from this entry point, I would set a take profit and a stop loss, and I'm going to base those on a number of deviations. And the default that I'm going to use in the strategy is 1 deviation. So now we'll move on to the code, and I'll be writing this from beginning to end. So we'll begin by opening the MetaTrader editor. This icon will open the editor. And I'm writing an expert, so under MQL4 here, I'll expand experts. I already have a folder here called Orchard. I like to keep all of my code inside a named folder so that it separates it from the examples here that would be supplied by MetaQuotes, or if I wanted to include some third-party experts, then I would put those in their own folder as well. Under this folder, I'm going to be creating a new expert called B-Band Reentry. I'm going to first create a folder for that because I don't like to put my experts directly in here. I have a separate folder for each one. So right click, new folder, and I'll call the folder B-Band Reentry. And then to create the expert, I just right click on that folder, new file. That brings up the wizard here. I'm creating an expert advisor. I'm going to call it B-Band Reentry. No need to change anything there. I'm not using on timer, and I'm not using on chart event, so I can leave those unticked. And I'm not using on tester. So click finish. And now the wizard has created a template for me. I'm going to reformat some of this because I don't particularly like the appearance here, but I won't be changing any of the structure. So I'll just do that reformatting and then come right back. Now I've finished reformatting. All I've done, I've changed the layout of the comment block at the beginning. Has the same content. There's the name of the expert advisor, my copyright, and a link to the website. These properties are also created by the wizard, and I haven't changed those at all. So the copyright statement, a link, and the version number, these will all appear on the input box when the expert advisor is written. That's the input box that you'll see when we run it. And property strict is an instruction to the compiler to follow MQL4 strict compilation mode that came about as a result of updates to the MQL4 language. Then the three functions that have been placed here by the wizard, the onInit is executed when the expert advisor starts, onDinit is executed when the expert advisor finishes, and onTick is executed every time there is a tick event in the market. First, I'm going to create some inputs. I create these with the input statement. So these are comment lines, inputs, and first I'm going to set up the inputs for the Bollinger Bands. I'm inputting an integer type, which is my number of periods for the bands, and as we saw, the default for that is 20. And by adding this comment, that will appear in the input box as bands periods, as a better prompt than seeing the variable name. The other inputs I have are a type double, which is the number of deviations, and I'm defaulting that to 2, and an enum applied price type, which is the applied price, and I'm defaulting that to the close price. Then I want inputs for my take profit stop loss deviations. These are both type double, and I'm just input take profit deviations and stop loss deviations. I'm defaulting those to 1. And then because this is an expert advisor, there are some standard inputs that I use. The first is a type double, which is the volume. This is going to be the size of each trade. I'm going to default that to 0.01 lots. Then there's an integer type, which is the magic number. Expert advisors attach the magic number to trades so that later you can determine which trades have been placed by which expert advisor. I like to make this an input because I never know if you might have another expert advisor that is using the same magic number, so allowing you to set this gives you more flexibility. And then I have a trade comment, and here I'm using a compiler macro __file__, and that will be a constant, which is the name of this file as it was compiled. In the onInit section, I don't need anything here. You may want to place some error handling. I'm going to assume that you've taken care of making sure you've entered correct values above. On dinit, I also don't need anything here. So all the work now will be in the onTick, which will happen at every tick. Now first, based on this strategy, I only want to trade at the beginning of each bar. So I'm calling this function called IsNewBar, which will return true or false depending on whether this is the first time onTick has been called for the bar. So now let's go down and write that before we go any further. So first I just create the outline of the function. It's a Boolean return value, and it's just called IsNewBar with no arguments. I have two variables inside this function. First, the open time for the current bar. So it's a type date time, the current bar time, and I'm using the iTime function, passing in the symbol from the current chart and the period from the current chart as the time frame, asking for the open time of bar number 0. Bar 0 is the currently open bar, bar 1 is the bar just closed, bar 2 is the bar before that, and so on. And then I'm also declaring a date time variable called previous bar time, and I'm declaring this as static. So I'm initializing this previous bar time to be current bar time, which is coming from this value. But by calling it static, that initialization only happens the first time this function is called after the expert advisor is started. Each time we come into this function after that, prev bar time will have the same value it had when we exited this function earlier. Then the function is as simple as saying, if the previous bar time is less than the current bar time, then we must have opened a new bar. And in that case, I'm updating previous bar time to be the new current bar time. Now remember, this value is going to be stored and will be the same next time we come into this loop. So I update it to be the new current bar time, and I just return true. And this tells me that we have started a new bar. If prev time is not less than the current bar time, then I just return false, and this will not change. So that's the IsNewBar function. And by making this call, if not IsNewBar, then I'm simply going to return, which means the onTick will be called and exit and won't flow through to the next statements until we do have a new bar. Next, I want to capture some values from the candle that has just closed. First, I want the close price of that candle, and here I'm calling the iClose function, passing the symbol, the period, and I'm looking at bar number 1, the bar that has just closed. And then I also want the high and the low values, because if I do execute a trade, remember I'm trading by just above the high of the bar that has closed, and I'm trading sell just below the low of the bar that was closed. So I'm simply calling the I high and I low functions, again passing in the chart symbol, period, and I'm looking at bar number 1. So this will give me the high, low, and close values of the bar that has just closed. Next, I want to get the value of the upper line of the Bollinger Band. So I'm declaring a type double, calling it upper 1, because this is going to be the upper of the bar that has just closed. And there is an inbuilt technical indicator function called IBands that takes arguments of the symbol, the time frame, and we input the number of periods for the bands, and we input the number of deviations. There is a shift which is more applicable if you're viewing this on screen. I will set that to 0 because I don't need it. Then the applied price that we also input. I'm calling mode upper to get the upper band, and I'm saying I want this for bar number 1, the bar just closed. I also want the lower band, again a type double lower, and this is exactly the same using the IBands function. The only difference here is that I'm changing mode upper to mode lower, and that will give me the lower band of the Bollinger Band. And then because I'm comparing to the bar before that to see if we have closed outside the Bollinger Bands and then back inside, I also want to calculate the close for the bar number 2. This is the same as before, but I'm just using 2 as the input for bar number, and then I want the upper and lower bands for bar number 2. Exactly the same, mode upper, mode lower, but I'm passing bar number 2 in here. And now my test for trading, if bar number 2 closed above the upper band number 2 and bar number 1 closed below the upper band number 1, then we have a re-entry from above, and that means I'm executing sell. So then I'm going to call my OpenOrder function, passing in order type sell stop, and the price that I'm going to be executing the sell stop at is low number 1, which is the low of the bar just closed. And I'm also passing in this difference between the upper and the lower because I want to calculate the take profit and stop loss based on number of bands. So you'll see how we use that. This OpenOrder is another custom function, so I'll go and look at that now before we go any further. So this is the beginning of the OpenOrder function. It's a type integer because it will return the ticket number for the order that is opened. First argument is the order type that I want to execute, the price that I want to open the order at, and the channel width, which up here you'll see I passed in upper minus lower. So that's the total channel width. Then I want to calculate the size of one deviation because my take profit and stop loss are based on a number of deviations. So a single deviation is the total channel width divided by 2 times the input for number of deviations. So by default we're saying that we're setting the bands at 2 deviations. That means that the upper band is 2 above the middle and the lower band is 2 below the middle. So that would give me a total width of 4 deviations. So a single deviation is 2 times the band deviation. So then the take profit amount is just a single deviation multiplied by the number of take profit deviations, and the stop loss size is a single deviation multiplied by the number of stop loss deviations. And then I'm also calculating the expiry time. Remember I said that these stop orders are going to expire at the end of the current candle. So the expiry time, I'm getting the I time symbol period 0. This is the open time for the current chart symbol for the current period, bar number 0. Period seconds with no arguments will give me the total number of seconds in this bar, and then I'm just subtracting 1 second. So this is for the bar start time plus the number of seconds in this bar minus 1, which means that this expiry time is just before the next bar opens. So next I'm just going to set up my prices. The entry price, I'm performing this normalized double because the entry price passed in may not be exactly the right format for MetaTrader to use. It's always a good idea to use normalized double. So I'm applying the normalized double function against the passed in entry price, and digits is a standard function that will tell me how many digits are applicable to the current symbol, and that will create a price that I can use for executing new trades. And then I'm creating three variables: take profit, stop loss, price, and a working value of price. I'm just initializing those to 0. So we'll use those now. Next, I'm calculating this double value that I'm calling stops level. In MetaTrader 4, there's a certain limit where you cannot execute a stop order if the current market price is too close to the price where you want to place that trade. So I need to know how far away that is. And this stops level is multiplying the internal variable point, which gives me the size of a point for the current symbol. And then I'm using the symbol info integer, passing in the current chart symbol and asking for this symbol trade stops level. That symbol info integer returns the number of points away from the market price where I can place a stop order. So by multiplying that by point, I get a double value that tells me how close the current price can be. And now here, the first thing I'm going to test is in case of buy orders. I know that I'm normally passing in an order type buy stop, but just in case it's an order type buy, I've tested the order type passed in, so this argument, using the modulus operator, the %2. So an order type buy and an order type buy stop will both have the same value in modulus 2. So I just need to compare this to an order type buy. And in that case, the price, the current market price, is the ask price. And I'm saying if that current ask price is greater than or equal to the entry price minus this stops level that we just calculated. So if that price is too high to enter a buy stop order, then I'm going to change the order type to an order type buy. So I'll be executing a market order, and I'm going to change the entry price to the current market price. And then I calculate the take profit price using the normalized double function again. And I'm just taking the entry price, which may have been modified here, and adding the take profit value. And I'm also taking the entry price and subtracting the stop loss value to get the stop loss price. So that was the code for the buy type order. Then I have an else statement, and the code for the sell type order is the same. If the order type %2 is a type sell, then the price is the bid price. If the price in this case is less than or equal to entry price plus the stops level, then again I'm going to execute a market order. So I change the order type to a type sell, and my entry price becomes the market price. And then the take profit in this case is entry price minus take profit, and the stop loss price is entry price plus the stop loss. So these statements here and here simply convert my call into a market order by changing the type to a buy or a sell type instead of a buy stop or sell stop, and changing the entry price to the current market price. And then I just execute an order send, passing in the market symbol, the order type, the volume from our inputs, the entry price, which may have been modified here if we're executing a market order. I'm using 0 as slippage, stop loss price, take profit price, the comment that we input, magic number that was input, and the expiration time that we calculated above. If this is a market order, then that expiration is going to be ignored. But if it's a buy stop or a sell stop, then that order will be deleted if we reach the expiry time without the order being executed. And then I just return that. The order send will return a ticket number. If it fails for some reason, the ticket number will be less than or equal to 0. So I'm just returning that ticket number here. Remember that the OpenOrder function that I have returns an integer. So now back up to the onTick event. That is the order type sell stop, where the close was above the upper band and has now moved below the upper band. And now I do exactly the same thing for a buy, but in this case, if bar 2 closed below the lower band and bar 1 closed above the lower band, then it's a re-entry from below, and that's a type buy. And so I again call the OpenOrder function, but this time I'm passing in a buy stop, passing in the high value for bar number 1 as the entry point, and still the width of the band. And then I just return from this function. And that's a complete working Bollinger Band strategy expert advisor. Let me compile it to see if I have any errors. And now we can go back to the chart and run a quick demonstration. And back in the chart, I'm going to open the strategy tester here with View Strategy Tester. In this box, I'm going to navigate to Orchard, B-Band Reentry, and double click that. I'll leave the currency at Euro, US dollars. Just set a time frame where I want to run the expert. I've turned visual mode on so that we can see it on screen. The expert properties I'll leave as the defaults. So here in the inputs, 20 periods for the bands, 2 deviations, applying the close price with a 1 deviation take profit and stop loss, lot size 0.01, magic number, and here's the trade comment, which when you run this you may want to remove the .MQ4, but otherwise it's just a comment. And I'll run this on the 1 hour chart. So let's start that, and I'll run this and show it executing some trades. So here it has just executed a sell trade because we closed outside the band and then closed inside the band, and the price at the next bar went below this candle that went inside the band. So it opened a sell trade here, stop loss 1 deviation above, and take profit 1 deviation below. And that one then reached the take profit and closed out. In this case, I have a buy trade that's opened. The candle closed below the band, moved back inside the band, created a buy trade here. That one hit the stop loss. So that's a simple strategy and a complete EA to run that strategy. I hope you found this useful. If you have, then please click the like button. And if you'd like to see more of these videos, remember to subscribe and click the bell icon if you want to be notified when we post new videos. Until next time, thank you for watching.